Hello everyone, welcome to our DS and 3DS collection. Starting with some Nintendo stuff, we have Super Mario 64, a port of the classic N64 game with a few additions and slightly different content in here. Both Amanda and I played this. She played it more than I did. We enjoyed it, but not quite as much as playing the original on the N64. Still a pretty decent port to the DS. Animal Crossing Wild World, one I have not played, but I know Amanda put a significant number of hours into. Sega Superstars Tennis. I like a lot of these mashup games of different Sega franchises. We have that. We have the first Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. I also have this for the Nintendo Wii. And while I enjoy the Wii version a bit more, this was fun to be able to actually take it on the go, and it reminded me in many ways of playing a lot of those kart racers on the PS1, playing the DS version of this. Sonic Classic Collection. I feel like there are collections of Sonic games on just about every system now, but having one on a portable system is always great fun, and of course we have the 4 classic Genesis titles. Age of Empires, The Age of Kings, very different from its PC counterparts that I played, but it is still a fun and interesting strategy title on the go. Overlord Minions. Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings. A few more adventure titles here with the Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, and then Battles of Prince of Persia. This one is a little bit more like a traditional Prince of Persia game. This is something a little different here as a strategy title. Not something I would normally think of as a Prince of Persia entry in the series, but a fascinating title. One of my favorite original DS games, Tomb Raider Underworld. I liked the different take on the Tomb Raider Underworld game. I have multiple versions of Tomb Raider Underworld on console, and this was interesting to play as a side-scrolling platforming version of that game. Made a unique experience, and also using, of course, these stylus to solve certain puzzles. Few RPGs, Glory of Heracles. I did not play this. I watched Amanda play a decent amount of this though. She played the whole way through and beat this. She really enjoyed it. A great traditional RPG, and one of the few that has not really gone up in value. A lot of the DS RPGs published by Atlas or Square, a lot of those are very pricey now, and this one seems to have gone up as much. It doesn't seem to have people who have caught on to it yet at all. Blue Dragon Plus with a slipcover. This one. And this, I feel like if I had not played the first Blue Dragon on the 360, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed this much at all. I wasn't a big fan of the gameplay, but I enjoyed the original on the 360, so I really wanted to invest the time into this, even though I wasn't really into the real-time strategy elements. I wish it was a little bit more just turn-based RPG like the first game, but it was still fun, and I still enjoyed revisiting this world and characters. Another one that I have very similar feelings to is Final Fantasy XII Revenant Wings. I love Final Fantasy XII. It is my second favorite game in the entire series. I absolutely love that game, and was happy to be able to revisit a lot of those characters in Ivalice. But again, I was not a big fan of the change in gameplay. It was definitely one that I played just because I wanted to revisit the world and the characters, but I just really was not that big of a fan of the new gameplay elements of the experience. Final Fantasy III. This is a fantastic remake of Final Fantasy III for the original Nintendo. Not as many people would know Final Fantasy III is Final Fantasy VI on the Super Nintendo. In the US it was called Final Fantasy III, but this is a remake of the actual Final Fantasy III, and I really enjoyed this. I have yet to play. I really want to get the remake in the same style of Final Fantasy IV. I have not played that. I played, of course, the original version of FF4 and then PS1, and then I played it on the PSP again, so I'd really like to re-experience that game in a completely new way with the remake, so I'm looking forward for that on the DS, just have not run into it yet. Lux Pain, one of the few visual novels that we own at all. And this was just a random grab many years ago at the video game stores, one of those games that was maybe $5-6, cheap DS game, and the art really intrigued me and actually did end up enjoying it. A handful of generic puzzle and learning games, Solitaire, 101 different card-based games. The DS was really good for lots of these very cheap, just kind of play on the go, time waster, waiting in line, sitting in the car, that type of thing games, and a couple there. And in that same vein, we have Left Brain, Right Brain, and Brain Age. And my favorite of that type, the just-in-time translations. There are some actually really good language learning software titles on the Nintendo DS, and those tend to be harder to find. There's like a Learn Japanese one that I was looking for a while and gave up because every time I saw it, it was like $60, $70, and no, not worth it at all. But this was a cheap find that has simpler versions of what a lot of those things are, just really a lot of translation exercises, and is pretty fun, very basic, but it can be a great refresher or a way to learn a few phrases in some languages that you have maybe not started learning whatsoever. It's just a fun way to get a look at a handful of languages, including Spanish, French, Chinese, German, Japanese, and Italian, and it's Mandarin Chinese. Probably my most played game on the DS, Plants vs. Zombies. I absolutely love this game. I remember playing a little bit of it on PC on the initial release, but then when we got it on the DS, Amanda and I both played the heck out of this game many hours, and I've replayed it multiple times. It's so much fun. I really wish we would get another Plants vs. Zombies game like this, not all those sort of Call of Duty clone ones. I don't understand those at all. I don't like that change. I wish we had more like this. I really enjoyed the original Plants vs. Zombies and all the different modes and everything in the DS version. This is a great game. Bejeweled 3. Legend of Starfy. There are a lot of great little platformers on the DS as well. Ivy the Kiwi, which Amanda just played this previous year. Zuma's Revenge. Balloon Pop. I have no idea what this is. Amanda was playing this, she picked that up. But Crazy Chicken Jump and Run Atlantis Quest. Look at that! Look at that cover. Wow. There reminds me of something that would have been like a shareware or a pack of like 20 games or whatever back on Windows 95, 98. One of those types of things I would have gotten. Yeah, this one's bizarre. Battle of Giants Dragons. Amanda said that this was fun for a little while, but then was just endlessly repetitive and got very, very boring after maybe an hour or so. Now, this is a curious little indie title. Eco Creatures Save the Forest. Very reminds me of growing up in the 90s and the constant, save the earth themes and save the rainforest, Captain Planet, like that type of has a very like 90s feel. It reminds me of a lot of things I grew up watching or playing back in the day, and Amanda really enjoyed this. Cake Mania. Moshi Monsters. Katsuma Unleashed. And last for the regular DS is Flipper Critters. This is interesting. I played a little bit of this. I think Amanda played a bit more than I did. It's a pinball game, but they are large, expansive tables that it's almost like environments. It's kind of like a combination between a platformer, puzzler, and a pinball game. Moving on, we have Animal Crossing New Leaf, which I believe is, at this point, Amanda's favorite Animal Crossing game of all time. I know she liked it better than the one on DS and the one on the Wii. And then, of course, the original GameCube, but I think this is definitely her favorite overall. She's played this a lot, and it'll be interesting to see if she ends up liking the Switch version more, or if this stays her favorite in the series. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. This is a fantastic port and remaster of a classic game, and is one of the great examples of that done right. And I always like these. I like when they remaster a game rather than do a full remake, and being able to play this portably. It's definitely a great way to re-experience a classic. Fantasy Life. This game deserves so much more praise. It is a game that I wish would be ported to the Switch or get a sequel. It is by Level 5. I've said it before, I've never played a game by Level 5 I didn't like. And this is not normally the type of game I would play at all. This is actually the only real Animal Crossing-like game that I played a significant amount of. I think Amanda beat just about everything in the entire game. I probably played maybe 40 hours of it or so. Really enjoyed it. It's kind of Animal Crossing in a fantasy setting that reminds me a lot of Dragon Quest, actually, a lot of the visuals. But it also has a bit of an RPG storyline and some world building and combat, and it's just a fantastic hybrid of an RPG, of a fantasy-themed RPG with Animal Crossing. It's a great game, and again, I really wish Level 5 would revisit this. Brain Age Concentration Training. Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. I have Monster Hunter 3 on the Wii, and then Amanda wanted to grab it on the DS. NCIS 3D. We both really enjoy this show, and it's one of those unusual ones where we're not typically big fans of the procedural cop dramas, but we both, for some reason, really enjoy NCIS. At least until you got to the point where they get rid of Ziva, and then as soon as Michael Weatherly left, I don't know, I lost interest and stopped watching. I think Amanda's watched a little bit more. Spirit Camera, I did a review of this. It is related to the Fatal Frame series of games and has a really interesting mechanic. It's one of the best uses of some of the unique features of the DS that I've ever seen. Not a spectacular game, but a lot of fun. Again, very, very creative use of the 3DS. Bravely Default. This feels very much like a traditional Final Fantasy game mixed with a little bit of something original, and it just has a great classic RPG feel to it. I loved maybe the first half of the game and just liked maybe the second half of the game, roughly. Definitely a great game that I overall enjoyed the experience with. You put it all together, and I just loved having a classic style RPG on the DS, but I didn't like it enough to where I would check out Bravely Second, and now there's confusingly Bravely Default 2. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Bravely Default. It's actually surprised they didn't do a port first of Bravely Default and Bravely Second over to the Switch before 2 is coming out. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll check out Bravely Default 2 on the Switch. I did enjoy this, but not enough to want to continue with the series, really. Tales of the Abyss on 3DS. This is a great port, but it's a bit of a downgrade overall from the PlayStation 2 version. I love the PlayStation 2 version. That is my favorite Tales game ever, and I do enjoy this. It is a very faithful port. It is really, really good, but much like porting something like Xenoblade Chronicles to the 3DS, it's a bit of a downgrade when you're porting to weaker hardware, but not a significant downgrade at all. It's still a worthwhile experience if you've not played it before. It is a fantastic RPG, but one that I really think deserves to have an enhanced port to something like the Switch. But still, to be able to have a portable copy of this game is fantastic. Again, my favorite game in the Tales series, and if you don't have a PS2 but you have a DS, go and grab this. It's one of the best RPGs on the system. And that is our collection so far as of the beginning of 2020 for the DS and 3DS. And this is definitely one of those consoles that is so far. There are a lot of consoles that were very close to having what we want and being complete, but I know there are titles that I want both for the DS and 3DS we don't have yet, and I know there's a whole bunch that Amanda has on her list that she wants. So this is definitely a collection that will keep growing over time.